Previously, we used a PSU tester to test our main 24-pin ATX connector in the computer. But you can test the individual wires on that connector, like the orange and the red and the yellow. And you could do that with a multimeter. You can also test your AC outlet with a multimeter, but you want to be real careful doing this. But we're going to show how to use the multimeter now for those two purposes. Let's begin. Now, the power supply tester we used in a previous sub-lesson is great at identifying if there's a voltage issue, but it only tells you the particular voltages that your main power supply line uses, 12 volt, 5 volt, 3.3 volt. Well, there's multiple wires here in this 24-pin connection that use those voltages. So in order to find out which individual wire is failing, if you think that's the case, you can use a multimeter. And a multimeter has lots of usages. Here's a digital multimeter. And what you would do is you would set this to volts DC and connect the leads to the wires. Now, the multimeter comes with two leads. It's got the black and the red. And the red will go to the colored wire, the one you want to test. The black will go to a ground wire. So, for example, we want to connect the black to one of these black ground wires here, and the red to one of the wires we want to test. I'm going to test one of the orange 3.3 volt wires in here. And to do that, we insert those leads in here. You don't want to go too far, but you want to go far enough to get connectivity to the copper that's underneath there. And of course, you want to make sure you're protected with anti-static protection and also have the computer turned off, disconnected, and so on. So I'll connect those leads now. And always connect the ground connection first, the black lead to the ground wire, then connect your colored connection, the wire you want to test. Okay, so once we have those connections made, we'll go ahead and boot up the PC, and then we'll turn on the multimeter. Okay, so the PC is booted up. We'll take our multimeter, and we'll turn it on to volts DC. That'll take a moment to register, and you can see it's reading 3.4 volts thereabouts. And so that red lead, the orange wire, we know is testing at 3.4 volts. It's supposed to be 3.3. That's within the standard deviation. That's okay. That's within that average range. Anything between, say, 3.2, 3.4, that's all right. So we know that particular wire is working properly. However, if you were to test the connection and get, 0 volts or get some very high number, then you know that there's a problem with that individual wire. And so if you really need to go into depth with the individual wires, this is the device to use. Just make sure that you get yourself a digital multimeter and one that's auto sensing. It can tell which voltage it's looking for. That's the way to go with these devices. And when you use it, make sure you test volts DC, not volts AC. There's protection circuits in this particular device, but other devices might not have that. So make sure you set it properly. And when you're finished, you'll turn off your multimeter, and then you'll power down your PC and hit the kill switch or disconnect the power cable. And basically, you're doing everything in reverse at this point. Now you'll remove the lead for the wire you tested, the red lead, and then remove the black lead that's connected to the grounds. And again, you don't want to press these in too far because you don't want to damage your 24-pin connector. And really, this is a last resort if you need to use this type of device for this kind of thing. And you can test anything that has a copper connection, any cable or wire that has a copper connection with these. But again, make sure that you're being safe. Connect the ground first, then the colored connection for your actual voltage. And always read the manual. Make sure you know what you're doing with your particular device because they will vary from one to the next. Now, sometimes the problem is not inside the PC, it's outside the PC. Could be the power issue is coming from your AC outlet. And you can test the AC outlet with the multimeter as well and check if the voltage is correct. Sometimes you might be the victim of dirty power or fluctuating power. You can test that with this guy. You'd set this to volts AC because your outlet will use alternating current. And in the United States, you're looking for 120 volts. Be very careful when approaching anything electrical. If you're not sure what you're doing, contact a licensed electrician. Basically what you do is you'd connect the black to the ground of the receptacle. You know, you have your 3-prong receptacle. You connect the black to the ground, which is the bottom of the 3 prongs. And then you'd connect the red to your hot connection, to your hot prong, which is on the upper right. And you try to do that with one hand. This first, then this, and then power on your multimeter, and it'll check the voltage. And maybe I'll do that in some other video and put it on the web, but that's only if you really need to. The better way is to use a receptacle tester. This plugs into your 3-prong outlet, and it'll tell you if it's wired correctly, and it gives a whole list of possibilities here, meaning if there's no ground connection, if the neutral's open. Any wrong connection on an AC outlet could mean devastation for your computer. So you check that with this guy, and what you're looking for is 2 solid amber lights. That means you have a good connection. Another thing you can use is a voltage tester. If you want to check if anything is live, or if you want to check if a outlet is grounded or a switch is grounded properly, you can use a little voltage tester. If this beeps, then you know that there's actual current running through that and possibly not grounded properly. So another good tool, voltage tester, receptacle tester, and the multimeter. So that's it for this portion of the lesson, and some more tools for you to gather for your toolkit.